Thank you so much, everybody. I hope that was fun for you all. You know, as we start tonight, as our program begins, we want to welcome everyone who is joining us via live stream. So some people are joining us via the internet, and we're glad that they're here. And as I said earlier, there's so many things that make homes special. Now, I heard another story recently about a woman who was very concerned because after the pandemic, her husband didn't want to go back to church. Maybe you've been in that boat if you're a churchgoer. Some of us are pastors here. We know all about it. Husband's name was Harold. So she called her pastor, and she asked him to come and visit Harold to talk to him about his faith. She was a bit concerned. And so when the pastor got there, he took him aside and said, you know, Harold, how is your faith? And he said, you know, I hear you don't want to go back to church. And he said, well, I don't need to go to church because I just experienced God every night of my life in my house. The pastor said, oh, that's so interesting. He said, let me tell you what happens to me every night. I wake up to go to the bathroom. And when I go in the bathroom, I open the door, and the light just comes on. God turns the light on for me. And then when I'm done and I leave, the light just goes off, and God turns the light off. So I don't need to go to church because I know God's with me. And the pastor said, that's really something. Totally good for you. That's great. So on the way out, his wife, Harold's wife, says, you know, how did it go, Pastor? What do you think? He said, I don't think you need to worry. Harold told me about this incredible experience he has every night with God. He goes to the bathroom, he opens the door, the light comes on, God turns the light on, and then he leaves, and God turns the light off. And Harold's wife said, oh, great, Harold's peeing in the refrigerator again. But homes are very special places for so many reasons. And we're so glad that we're here to remember that and the gift of homes that Indwell gives tonight. Indwell's work would not be possible without the support of all of you and also of all levels of government. So we are thrilled to share these greetings from leaders across the city of Hamilton.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. My name is Matthew Green, and I'm very proud to bring greetings today as the Member of Parliament representing Hamilton Centre, virtually from Ottawa here, but to all of you back home in Hamilton, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to all the amazing Indwell staff and volunteers and generous supporters like yourself who continue to offer dignified housing for some of our most vulnerable people. Please know that your support is making a difference to improving the lives of so many people living in Hamilton. And for those of you who can tonight, again, thank you so much for your generous support. And to the staff and the team that keeps those programs running, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hefner, Member of Parliament for Hamilton Mountain. Having access to a safe, affordable, permanent place to live is critical for survival and healing and moving forward in life. Thank you to Indwell for continuing to create housing opportunities for some of Hamilton's most vulnerable people, and for partnering with agencies across the city to provide wraparound services that help them stay housed. Your work makes Hamilton a better place.
Hi, this is Dan Muse, Member of Parliament for Flamborough-Glanbrook in the Hamilton area. Since its founding, Indwell has provided affordable housing to thousands of individuals, many here in Hamilton, whose otherwise would not have a place to call home. Indwell has continued to lead in both creating and encouraging intentional communities, uniting and supporting at-risk individuals and those with disabilities. Thank you to the staff, residents, and community partners of Indwell who make all of this possible. Your continued work is an inspiration to all of us. I wish great success for your annual Hope in Homes Banquet and for many accomplishments in the years to come.
Greetings to everyone gathered here this evening in support of the annual Hope in Homes Community Banquet. What a joy it is that Indwell supporters may once again meet in person and in fellowship. As a Christian charity which creates affordable housing with supports, Indwell provides a comprehensive suite of services for some of our most vulnerable citizens seeking health, wellness, and belonging, and ideally to move them towards living independently. Since the early 1970s, Indwell has answered the call. Your successes have been due to the groundswell of local committed volunteers, seeing need and in good faith responding to that need. So sincere thank you to all of the generous donors who are the foundation of Indwell, and congratulations to all of you who participate day in and day out in providing real and loving homes.
My name is Councillor Sam Rilla, and I'm proud to bring greetings on behalf of Ward 4, East Hamilton, and the City of Hamilton to Endwell. Your work in this community is not only appreciated, it's so needed. We look forward to many more years of Endwell prospering in Hamilton, but also, most importantly, ensuring that that prosperity delivers more units for the most marginalized in our community. And for that, I congratulate you. I look forward to seeing all of you in the future, and I wish you all the best. God bless.
It's my pleasure to add to this illustrious list someone we'll now get to hear from in person, Jeff Nevin, our CEO. He's been with Indwell for 21 years, first as a volunteer board member, and a year later he joined the staff team. Jeff and his wife Maria and their 4 children live in Hamilton's East End, not too far from the Resource Center, which meets at Indwell's the Resource Center at Main and Kenilworth. They also help to plant New Hope Community Church, which meets at Indwell's Perkins Center. Jeff loves meeting new people, bicycles, and pickup basketball. And I can say, as someone that has had many opportunities to spend time getting to know Jeff, that it is such an honor to know that we have this servant working in this way in our city, and to get to hear from him tonight. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Leanne. It's so good to be here today, isn't it? Is it good? Yeah? As I was coming in, it felt a little bit like a family reunion. You know, take out the bad parts of family reunion, the other parts, right? It felt like this is our family, that we're coming back together again. It's been a while. It's been a long while. We've been through a lot over the last couple of years while we've been apart. And we've felt that, haven't we? Just before the pandemic we realized the gravity of the pandemic. We had a leadership conference where we gathered and we talked about leadership, and you'll see some of those photos here tonight. And we gathered and we had no idea of what it was going to be like to together as a staff team, as a board and volunteers, to lead through a time of a pandemic. And it was a new reality of having to meet tenants through goggles and plexiglass and masks, a reality that was really, really hard for some of our tenants. There was things that were unusual, and we're still feeling some of these, right? Maybe some of you don't have to raise your hand, but just realized that one of the things that happened during the pandemic is that your suit shrunk in your closet over the last 2 years. I don't know if that happened to me. But it's been a lot of change. And it's been hard as a family of people that are doing something together. It's been hard to do this in isolation. So it's so good to be here today and to see who's in the room and say, oh, I didn't know you were part of the Indwell family as well. We recognize that there's also people that are missing and are lost, that we lost over the last 2 years, and we grieve each and every single one of those stories and lives as well. Good news is that things seem to be getting back to normal. Here we are. We heard news that communal meals can start happening again next week, which is great. Yeah, there's a whoo. Yeah. eating together, socializing together, having friends that can come and visit, being able to go to AA meetings in person. These are some of the most important things that we traditionally have been able to offer to the communities that we support and build and grow at Indwell. And those have been taken away, and with some pretty significant consequences. But tonight, we're coming back together. Tonight, look around and see who's here. What's brought you here? It's a common mission, sharing in a common set of values. We're here today. 450 of us in this room today, I believe, is the number. We're here today as an extension of the community that wrapped itself around John and Sini Prinzen, who had a dream. When they opened up their house and invited people in who were transitioning from hospital into community, their faith community rallied around them and said, we're going to help you with this vision because we believe that this is the right thing to do. Some of us have been here since the beginning. I think Daphne had to give up her bedroom for that story over there in the corner. John and Sini's daughter. And some of us are new. If this is the first Indwell event you've been, can I see your hand? I'm curious. So there's a lot of us that are new. Yeah, thanks for coming. And we're brought here today through different stories. And as I met many of you, some of you for the first time tonight, and I heard those. Today in this room, we have staff, we have volunteers, we have tenants, we have construction workers, we have engineers, we have bankers, we have lawyers, we have all kinds of folks. We have volunteers, we have donors, we have lenders, people who've given personal loans. We have partners from our sector, other agencies working alongside us, all gathered today for one purpose, and it's to remind ourselves of the good work that we've been called to do. We are coming together around a shared set of values. At Indwell, we talk about those as dignity, love, and hope. Those are rooted in Christian scriptures, but I think there's a lot of traction, and some of you are new to this, and you're like, yeah, but I can get on board with that, and I want to know more. Over the last 2 years, we've been busy. Our board developed a strategic plan and gave us that mandate to go forward. When we started the strategic plan, we had about 700 tenants living with us in about 650 units when we started that conversation. And the strategic plan calls us over the next 3 years to grow to a little more than double of that, to 1,500 folks that we seek to provide affordable homes and therapeutic relationships with. This is an incredible vision, an incredible belief of what's possible to solve the challenges that we're facing in our community, and it would not be able to happen without each and every one of us in this room. And I'll tell you what, there's thousands more behind us that didn't make it into this room today. And that's the good news story here. This year is a particular year of growth, 2022. In this year, we started with 671 apartments. More tenants than that, because we have some families and some partners in those spaces, but 671 units. In this calendar year, we are opening another 391 apartments. Yeah, I think that's worth a clap. It is incredible and amazing to stand in a new building and invite new people in. Some of you were at the Lakeshore Loss opening, in Mississauga a couple of months ago. And you heard the story from one of our tenants talk about living under a tarp in a park nearby and watching this building be built for 2 years. And then having the moment where he got to move from being under a tarp to getting to move into his own unit. It's one thing to hear that story. It's a whole nother thing to meet the individual and hear what that's done for him. And today, if you were to meet this tenant, you wouldn't guess that he spent the last number of years living under a tarp in a nearby park. Generous is how he's described by his neighbors, and brings a joy to that community that's contagious. That's what that looks like. There's also, along with this, it's nearly a 60% growth this year as an organization. There's some tiredness that comes along with that too, and that's real too. And so we're working on this, and our board has given us this mandate, and they've called it Grow Well. We need to not only grow, but we need to do it well. So under construction, in addition to those 391 units we're opening this year, we have another 182 units that are under construction right now, and we have over 250 others that are in the development stage coming along the way. So it feels tired sometimes, yep, but it's good work, and it's making a difference. And our commitment is, as we grow through our strategic plan, is to continue to grow with care and with diligence to ensure a long-term sustainability. We have 4 pillars for our current new strategic plan, and those are tenacious tenant care. Do you like that word, tenacious? There's that, this is hard work. Transformation of life is hard, right? When I go put that suit on and I realize it doesn't quite fit anymore, changing that story is hard work. That's just one story, right? How often has life change been easy? It never is. And that's what we're in the business of doing, is helping people to set goals and to meet those. Thriving staff is another pillar for us. We don't want just us as staff to exist and to do our jobs. We want to be in a place where we're thriving and we're doing well and we're excelling and we're at the best in our craft that we're able to do. Responsible growth means that we always have to have our eyes on the long term, ensuring that we're financially stable, that our staff have the resources and tools that they need to do to be successful in their roles. It means that we're building new systems. It means that we're looking down the road and saying, okay, we raised $30 million from our community and personal loans. What's it look like to grow that to $100 million? How do we do that? Those are some of the challenges that we're working on today as we continue to grow and develop and ensure that not only the structures of today, but the structures in 5 years fit our organization. And then the 4th pillar is called system disruption. And that's a recognition that things aren't well in our society. Things aren't well on our streets and in our park, and the same old is not going to work. It's not working. Homelessness is on the rise. Opioid addictions are on the rise, and the deaths related with that are on the rise, and it's not okay. So we're called to continue to innovate in how we do our work. We're called to continue to dream bigger and to imagine a preferred future that comes with real solutions. And I think that's one of the things that draws us here together tonight, because we have a sense that in this room is real solutions that make change. Yeah? A couple of innovations that I'm just going to highlight, and there's so many things we could talk about, but they told me that I couldn't speak for 3 hours. One is our short-term assistance response team. We call it START. Did I get that, Kylie? All right. Sometimes I mix that up and get the words in the wrong order, but I got it. START. Our START team here in Hamilton is a very specific team that is a interdisciplinary team that comes alongside our existing team of apartment support workers in particular moments where individuals might need a little extra level of support to get through a particular time in their life. Maybe, for example, someone had surgery and has been in hospital for a time and needs to figure out how to live again in their apartment. That would be a good time for that, for the team to be involved. And it's one way that we're ensuring that people not only get housing, but are able to keep that housing for the long term and to set goals and to have a supporting community to rally around to meet those goals. The other innovation that happened since we last gathered is our Flourish team. Yeah, you can give a holler for that. Yep. Our Flourish team is our project development team that we realized a couple of things. That we had something that many others in their sector did not have. The ability to find tangible solutions in getting land, in getting that land clean and ready for building, and following that through with design that's environmentally friendly and wonderful to live in, and that is sustainable over the long term. And we realized that we had something that we couldn't just keep for ourselves. And if we truly believed in Hope and Homes for All, our vision statement, then actually we'd have to find a way that we could actually provide and spur on our sector. And so we spun off our Flourish team, and our president of Flourish team, Graham Cubitt, you want to wave, is leading a team of 13 individuals right now on this team and growing a nonprofit organization that is set to help our sector, in addition to Indwell, to create affordable housing and to create real solutions in our community. I think that's worth a round of applause as well for that. So our family is growing. It's growing with new people. It's growing in new regions. But one thing that's not changed, and I'm reminded of that here tonight, is that we exist because a group of Jesus-following people formed us, has sent us, and continues to sustain us, rooted in our core values of dignity, love, and hope for all. And the good news is this, is that's really appealing. It is good news. And many of you who put up your hand are new. Our family's growing. And so I'm thankful you're here and you've joined us, and that we together are committed and dedicated to providing hope and homes. Because together we're making a difference. Lives are being transformed. Homeless are housed. Naked are clothed. Hungry are fed. Bondage to old patterns are being broken. This is the good news here on earth that Jesus talked about. And we get to experience it, and we go, that's good. This family, our family of Indwell, we're all in. We're committed. We're committed to bringing hope and homes for all. Tonight I'm once again encouraged. While the need is indeed great, so is our response. And together we are bringing hope and homes for all.
Thank you, Jeff. How inspiring. I'd like to now welcome Leanna Nightingale. Leanna Nightingale, like so many other people on Indwell's staff team, joined Indwell last year during the pandemic. She's Indwell's Donor Engagement Coordinator and is a part of the Community and Donor Engagement team. Besides her work at Indwell, she is also president of Redeemer University's Alumni Association and is active in her church in Guelph. Welcome, Leanna.
I'm not going to lie, the Leanne versus Leanna was a little tricky today. What a joy to be here at an event with 450 people. Can we just get a round of applause for that? It feels so good. And this is not the only one that Indwell will be having this year. We have our London Hope and Homes Social next week, June 15. And we are really excited because it's sold out. We also look to have a groundbreaking in Streetsville, Mississauga. Stay tuned. We are aiming for the end of June. The Arkells are having a concert at Tim Hortons Field on June 25th. And buy tickets, because a portion of the ticket sales will be going to Indwell. Yeah. Now, this is a bit of a tentative date, but July 7, we hope to have our grand opening of Dogwood Suites in Simcoe. There will be a McQueston Lofts Social in East Hamilton. This is in partnership with Hamilton Public Library's new Parkdale branch. And this will be July 14, and this is in place of a grand opening because we weren't able to have one because of COVID. And lastly, we have the Oaks grand opening, again here in Hamilton, and we're aiming for September for that. We hope to see you at some of these events. If you have any questions about the events, feel free to talk to myself or anyone who has a name tag from Indwell. You can also go to indwell.ca/events, and we look forward to further celebrations with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. I'd now like to introduce Fred Spolstra and Aaron Heiser and invite them onto the stage. They can come together. Fred started as a volunteer with the facilities team after retiring and moving to Hamilton in 2017 and joined the board the following year. He is an invaluable member of the board in his role as vice president and is also the president of Flourish, the projects and development team that Jeff mentioned to us earlier. Erin joined Indwell's team in 2018 and in her role supports Jeff Nevin and all of the board activities. Welcome.
I always get to do that. It's just great to be here this evening. We have been so much looking forward to this time together for so many good reasons. So on behalf of the board, I thank you for your support of Indwell as we pursue our mission, our vision. Your support in so many ways is invaluable to us. Thank you. Very recently, my wife and I had the opportunity to drop in on 2 Indwell buildings in Simcoe. We are excited to see the old Norfolk Inn now repurposed into the beautiful Dogwood Suites. It's been just completed, and staff there were excited to be welcoming new residents, some coming from living off the street, to their new beautiful spaces and welcoming community. At Hamilton Hall, the staff were excited to tell us that they had served as a polling station for our recent election. Indwell residents who hadn't voted in decades were led through the registration and voting process. While you and I may at some times be a bit cynical about political processes, our residents experience voting to be a wonderful validation of themselves as persons. They saw themselves as contributing participants. In a devotional I recently read, Howard Thurman wrote about the fear, anxiety, and despair experienced by those living with their backs against the wall. It surrounds them. It can become them. People in poverty, the homeless, socially disadvantaged person is constantly given negative answers to the most important personal questions upon which our mental health depends. Who am I? Do I belong? What am I? What do I have to give? While you and I also face these questions from time to time as we forge out meaning in our own lives, they are particularly acute for those who have profound sense of powerlessness, of nowhere to go, of only empty answers. Hope and homes. Hope and homes. Hope. I belong. I too am a child of God. I too have something to contribute to the community, to life. When I'm in our buildings, this is what I see our staff working toward with our residents. There's no denying the challenges, the obstacles, the frustrations, the broken stories that each brings, but there is hope in their Indwell home. What I love about Indwell is that I see it as a signpost of the kingdom of God. People in places striving for meaningful, loving connection in community. Scripture ends with a wonderful promise. Behold, I am making all things new. I believe that Indwell is part of that story. So am I, so are you. Turn it over to
Amen to that, Fred. We'd like to invite Alan Backer to come join us on stage. So as many of you know, we haven't been able to gather together in person, which means we haven't had a chance to thank and acknowledge some of our board volunteers for a long time. And so tonight it's our pleasure to acknowledge Alan and his participation on our board. Alan, we want to thank you for 4 years nearly of serving on our board, and I realize in that time also in serving on all of our board committees during that time. I know I can speak for other board members and staff when we say we're really grateful for your attention to detail and just really good sound advice that helped Indwell move forward confidently. So thank you so much.
We also acknowledge our retiring board members, Tom Perry, Cliff Williams, and Charlotte Vanderhoek, whose terms came to a close recently and who couldn't be with us this evening. All three of them had a heart for our tenants and were always ready to support and encourage our staff teams. So we're grateful for them and wish them well as they engage in new serving opportunities. I'd like to also acknowledge other board members that are in attendance this evening, and I'd ask them to stand as I read their names. Bill Munns, our treasurer, Krista Boyer, Chan Disselkoon, Melanie Froese, John Nyholt, Lindsay Reynolds, Pete Van Geest, and then there are three other board members, Alice Plug-Bust, Karen Efron, and Wayne Solomon, not able to make it. So we're very grateful, and it's a fun and great group to work with, and I think they deserve a round of applause. I'd also like to express our gratitude to our many sponsors, volunteers, and staff. First of all, our sponsors. And I'm going to read through this list rather rapidly. AIM, Burke Home Construction, Bazoon Construction, Course Lab, CK Engineering, Inline Fiberglass, Enviges Architects, Kalos Engineering, LJ Barton Mechanical, Nevin Custom Homes, On-Site Mobile Welding and Repairs, PharmaShare, PRL Guyot Electric, Ross and McBride, Schulteis Construction, Smith Brothers Contracting Corporation, TD Bank, The Bold Group, T. Johns Consulting Group, Upper James Pharmacy, Vortex Incorporated, and WPE Landscape Equipment. These are all organizations that have come together also to help support this evening and help create the space that we are enjoying this evening. So thank you to all of them. As I'm sitting at our table and mingling with a number of people that I have not seen in a long time, this is a great place for reconnecting. Just recognize how many people are volunteers in different capacities in our organization. And even though these past 2 years have been difficult and some people have had to step back because of the COVID restrictions and other concerns, nonetheless, throughout the last year, we've had many, many volunteers returning to us, and we're very, very grateful for the relationships that they're building and all that they give us. Thank you for seeing all of us who we are as image bearers of God, and thank you for giving hope. And I'd ask all those who volunteer in some capacity, or even prior to the COVID shutdown, if you would just stand and we would recognize you and have a chance to appreciate what you have done for Indwell over the years. So please stand if you have in any way been a volunteer in the last while. All right. Also want to acknowledge some of the retiring board members. No, I've already done that, so I shouldn't do that again. So this is like reruns, right? I mean, okay. To the staff, and one of the privileges that I've had over the years is just working in a number of the different buildings, working with the facilities team, and it's such an impressive group of people to see them in their care and their concern and their relationship building with our residents. Many directly support our tenants, and I think they need a very, very special shout out. So if you're a staff member of Indwell, please stand. All of you. I think one of the things that I love about Indwell is the culture that has been established by our leadership. People like Jeff and Chris and Graham and many, many more who have established a culture in which the staff really have a sense of ownership of the roles and the places that they have. And I think that's so important as we are so focused on fulfilling the mission and vision that we have. And so thank you, and we again thank you for being here this evening and appreciate your ongoing support.
Thank you, Fred. And now I'd like to welcome Jess Brand to the stage. She is Indwell Hamilton's regional manager. In her role, she's supporting 3 program managers, and through that, all the housing programs in Hamilton. She's been with Indwell for over 11 years, and she has many hobbies. Did you know one of them is beekeeping? Very interesting. And it's an interest she carries over to Indwell at Strathern Suites in East Hamilton, where tenants help to harvest honey. Jess and her husband Tim have 3 teens, so she requests extra prayer for her. Welcome Jess to the stage.
That's great. Thanks, Leanne. Sorry, Nella. It's my teen. She loves being called out. I'm not supposed to say cringy things either. I'll do my best. Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Honored tenants, friends, guests, politicians, staff, other people who I'm forgetting to name. As one of our staff members said this afternoon, this banquet is so good as a reminder that we are not alone in caring for our community. As we look around, we're reminded that we are not alone in caring for our community. It is good to be connected. For many who are gathered here, even if we've lived or worked with Indwell for 3 years, am I right, Kim? This may be our first time seeing a Hope and Homes banquet and being together to see how big and how wide is the heart of our city and of our community. For those online, it's like ever-growing concentric circles of care for the dignity, love, and hope of our neighbors. My name, as you already know, is Jess Brand, and I have the humble honor of being the regional manager for Hamilton. I love my city. I've lived here for most of my life. I've chosen Hamilton as my home. I've seen us grow from being the gritty city, literally gritty, being dirty, to the gritty city, meaning a place of resilience and strength and tenacity. We're the biggest small town I know. And Leanne was right, I'm a beekeeper. It's one of the cool things that came out of COVID for me is the opportunity to keep bees at Strathern Sweets. Got that? It's a pretty sweet deal. Keeping a bee colony on the roof and harvesting honey with the tenants. Thanks to the TD grant, we've been able to supply our tenants with honey and together be just a little bit, that's right, be a little bit closer to the healing power of the natural world. You can see a picture of the beginning of the honey harvest. This was before we got mobbed by honeybees. That's a separate story. But Frank, who's pictured, and Justin, our regional manager in Oxford, we're getting the honey extractor started together. Incredible things to be able to do as community together. And honeybees are a good analogy for how I've been thinking about community lately. Did you know that honeybees keep their colony going all winter long? You'd never know it because they don't fly out in the cold, and instead they work together inside to stay warm. And they use the supplies that they've stored up. I think that's a bit how we felt at the beginning of COVID, especially in our programs. There were times when our tenants and our staff felt, and I think this is true for you in your homes too, but it really reflects our experience in the programs. We felt holed up, unable to fly out, and sometimes, admittedly, feeling a little bit invisible. Like, do people even know that we're overwintering here? Or like the rest of the world, wasn't always sure we were still here. It's hard to believe there's a community out there when you don't have visual reminders like we do tonight. It's so good to be together tonight. We want to celebrate spring, right? As bees and other pollinators emerge from winter, they take hesitant flights out to explore the resources. And that's not unlike what we've been doing as we've navigated changing protocols through COVID. We've had outdoor gatherings. There's a big picture on the screen right now of Gary having his first s'more ever at an outdoor, we had these propane fire pits outside at one of our, well, we had them at a lot of our buildings. This was at Perkins. Just incredible that Gary's having his first s'more ever, and the smile on his face is so huge, which is pretty awesome for people to see, for us to see. We've been able to do therapeutic horticulture, that's playing with dirt and plants. And we've even begun some clay workshops. You can see a picture there of Vince working with clay. Tenants like Chris have kept up their volunteering. Chris is showing his plaque honoring his volunteering at Good Shepherd. We've got a lot of great places where there's new life and exciting things happening. It's not possible to share it all. Now I want to take a break from my bee analogy to do some description about how our supports work. You see, our tenants move into our housing seeking affordable housing, but also supports. So what are supports? I've shown you some pictures about programs and activities. Are those supports? Supports are the things that we actually all have that help us be well and live in the community. I should be very clear, I'm saying supports, not sports. There was one time when I was doing an intake conversation with somebody, asking them about what sports they had in the community. And they really did start talking about basketball, and I couldn't figure out, because basketball actually would be a support, a meaningful activity that we would do with others, and you'd build community. So I was sort of following, but no, it's support that we're talking about. Anyway, supports are the things that we actually all have. We all have, you got here somehow, that help us be well and live in the community. We also call these the social determinants of health. There are a myriad of things like access to education, good health care, a well-designed neighborhood, economic stability, a healthy community. Indwell's housing supports are designed to strengthen our community's social determinants of health. An individual moving into our housing may have experienced disconnection on any level, or all the levels, and the layering of supports can build resilience and an ability to weather the challenges that life brings. Not to oversimplify it, but the addition of supports can be like insulation or a buffer that means that the bad things aren't quite so bad. Now we're gonna act this out for a minute. So Tom, where are you? Tom, can you come up? Tom has agreed to volunteer as a tenant tonight. He is a tenant, so this is fitting. Now, hopefully on video we'll be able to see if Tom were to stand here. Teresa, I'm looking at you to tell me if that's gonna be possible. Or does Tom need to come here? Can I take off my double fisting mics? Do I have to carry them both? Both? One. Tom, can you come up? Yep, you got it. You got it. All right. Okay, you stand here. Tom, how long have we known each other? 10 years. 10 years. We go way back. Tom is going to be a tenant. Now there's a few other staff in the room that I've invited to play the role of staff. So if I did talk with you, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. Please just volunteer to come up. Volunteer as tribute. This will end well, I promise. End well for Indwell. So Tom's gonna stand here, and we're going to build a team of supports around Tom in a very particular way, and we've never done this before, so everybody's just gonna have to follow my instructions. So Brian is going to come up and act as if he was a housing support staff, and that's fitting because he is. But he doesn't work in the building where Tom lives. So Brian, if you can come and, are you okay to stand there, is that okay? Brian's gonna stand here beside Tom, and then Karen is also going to volunteer as a housing support staff. She also is one, but also at a different program. So we have 3 different buildings represented here, and Karen is housing support, and Brian is housing support, and they might help Tom with things like checking his apartment for bed bugs, taxes, getting to a doctor's appointment, making phone calls, maybe helping him get the phone going because it is not working right because he got a new one. All right, and then Chantel is going to stand beside Brian, and Chantel is playing her role as a psychosocial support. Chantel's role would be, and there's lots of other psychosocial support staff in our programs. Chantel would be maybe making some groups like the horticulture therapy that, playing with dirt and plants that Tom might go to. And then Felicia is volunteering to be a nurse because she is one. Felicia's a nurse, and Felicia's helping Tom maybe with the foot injury that you've had, right? And helping make sure that you get to the doctor's appointment and that the appropriate care follows up because we all need things to help grease the wheels of our systems. And then Emma, who actually doesn't do this. So I totally put Emma on the spot. Emma works in our Wentworth program. Emma is playing the part right now of an addiction support staff. And so Emma would come alongside Tom and help him through any conversations around addiction or connection in the community that he may wish to have. Whether or not that's something, this is just something that's available for every tenant, and right now we're painting a picture of what could be around Tom. I've also invited Jonathan to come, and he's gonna come and stand on the other side of Chantel, because Jonathan's role is facilities. And Jonathan, as a kind, supportive facility staff, is going to come and take care of the light bulbs that Tom can't reach, but also the hole that gets knocked in the wall because scooters, right? They don't always fit in the wall, in the apartment very well. But Jonathan does this with a kind and caring approach. He's not a stranger to Tom. And then we have Josh, and Josh is going to come stand on the other side of Jonathan. And Josh makes the meals, and he really does do that as well. And Josh is making the meals so that Tom can be assured of having one hot meal a day in his apartment building. Now, Tom is in the center. When something bad happens, when there's a pandemic, let's say, and that's something that puts threat on Tom's life, Tom is actually surrounded by this army of people who are there to help buffer these terrible things that happen to all of us. We actually all have communities like this, don't we, right? You've come here, somehow you were able to get here, you know someone, somebody knows somebody else. We all have these kinds of supports in our communities. When someone moves into an Indwell building, we actively seek to build that. Because the other thing that can happen through any one of these wonderful people, besides they could all plunge the toilet if necessary, right? Probably have. Not yet, maybe soon. But they all can also help build that connection so that perhaps we could get connected with new friends, make some friends in the community, reconnect with a family member. All of our staff can also help with those things. So you can imagine these ghost figures around here who are not all pulling together, but maybe a doctor or maybe a family member, right? Tom, we've had many good years, haven't we? Yes, we have. Yes. This is how housing support in the Indwell context works. It looks a little bit different depending on the program. None of them are the same. None of them are identical, just like we're not identical. Every community has its own character. Every staff brings themselves. Every tenant brings themselves. But this is what support in community looks like. Thank you, everyone, for being so generous to volunteer. Is that okay? It actually is a little bit like bees, just so you know. Right, there's nurse bees, and there's drone bees, and there's forager bees, and there's guard bees, and they all look the same, just like people all kind of look like people. Bees all kind of look like bees. Indwell isn't the only support, by no means, right? There's that imaginary people on either side insulating our tenants. While the first part of the pandemic challenged our feelings of connectedness and enhanced our experience of the housing crisis, we've begun to see our community come together in new ways. Maybe brought on by some of that, we're more aware. During the pandemic, Sacagawea Nonprofit Homes and Hamilton Regional Indian Center and Indwell began meeting together to explore how to act on principles of truth and reconciliation. I've been changed through this process, entering into the far more real experience of how every child matters while meeting with my community members. Melanie was at my table with me here tonight. Because of virtual meetings, we've actually been in each other's living rooms. We've come to understand one another better and I've come to understand the legacy of brokenness brought on by colonialism in a very real way. Together, we will be welcoming new tenants into Adaning, which means home within our hearts, to the Heartwood Apartments, the Dairy Lofts, and Cannon Studios, 4 buildings in the next few months. First move is within 30 days. This is good news. It's 120 places. Adaning and Cannon Studios are apartment buildings specifically focused on housing Indigenous tenants, while our collaborative efforts together are increasing our ability to support Indigenous tenants everywhere in our Indwell communities. We're still exploring what the future will bring. We haven't reached where we're going, right? We're still on our way. At Adening and Canon Studios, we are going to layer cultural supports that will build connections for our tenants. So imagine that team getting deeper. We've already begun to see some of these cultural supports in action at McQueston Lofts. We celebrated the gift of the strawberry earlier this week. Kenya, I see over there, Kenya and Josh, and Hamilton Regional Indian Center led us through this. Beautiful things happen when we listen to one another and we seek to understand. Our community continues to come together and seek ways to solve the challenges of affordable housing and the lack of access to community and supports. Inville has new housing opportunities on the horizon. We are talking regularly with other fantastic people in our city about how we can work together, increasing both the number of housing units and improving access to these apartments and their supports through creative partnerships. I'm excited looking ahead to the next few years. Now I'm gonna make a list and it's gonna miss people, but I'm excited looking ahead to continue to work with the Shelter Health Network, with St. Joseph's Hospital, with the Hamilton Police, with CMHA, the YWCA, City of Hamilton, Sacagawea, Hamilton Regional Indian Center, maybe your church, in this biggest small town that I know. In just a minute, we will be blessed with the viewing of a collaborative project by tenants from Parkdale Landing and Wentworth Program. We've realized through this season of COVID that we need to celebrate the good that's happening in our communities and share more of that together. Sharing stories. Housing is that wellspring from which all kinds of good rises up. Once an individual moves into our housing, we get to know them, they get to know us, our neighbors get to know one another. We see the good things that can come when you no longer wonder where you might sleep, if your things are safe, who you can really trust. In this video, please note that there's a reference to specific self-harm that could be upsetting for some, because we do know that these good things that we're celebrating are also reflective that something hasn't been right, hasn't been good. Hope is something that springs up when things aren't the way they're supposed to be. So please know that that's in the video as we celebrate accomplishments and amazing things that our tenants are doing in their lives. I also love the presence of one of our staff members in this video. Mel, your gift to your community is treasured and really shows what each of our staff do on the daily to help people meet their goals and be well. Our video focuses on the good things and celebrates the sweetness that life can be in community. Enjoy.
I like how there is support when you need it, but there's also the independence to do your normal life. They really encourage you to achieve your best person that you can be, and there's staff here that can support you in no matter what it is, as well as they want to see you succeed in life.
It's a really good place. The staff is amazing, especially Mel over there. Like, the staff is so kind, so caring. They really understand what you struggle with.
Oh, I love the staff. They're great. They're great.
Favorite part is the love that I'm experiencing coming from everybody that I didn't know. It's like now I know them. You know what I mean? Now I know what humanity really is. We are all equal. We are all family. We're all here together.
I'm just happy that you guys helped me all this time when I was down.
Of course, honey.
The community, the staff are always good to talk to. The summer get-togethers with the summer students, and Tinika's food. Yeah. Because she makes it special because I'm vegetarian.
Some things I like to do around here is going for a little walks around the block, as well as going to No Frills to pick up groceries for some of the other residents. I also enjoy spending some time in the yard in the evening, enjoying a cup of coffee and a cigarette, mind you. And I enjoy also watching the fish in the pond, and some of my friends here are very, very great comrades to hang out with, and I like Indwell, and I would recommend it to anybody who is in my predicament. Thank you.
A skill that I learned, independence. How to live on my own.
Yes, when I first moved in here, I was able to do things on my own and meet new friends and new people.
All I want to share is that I just really enjoy this place, and another thing is they made me welcome ambassador here. So when a new tenant comes in, I welcome them in. So yeah, it's a really great place to live.
All right, so let's show off your certificate. So this is your certificate that we gave you because instead of self-harming, which has been a pattern for a long time, you decided to talk about your feelings with us, right? And you gave back the piece of glass that you were gonna use, and that was amazing, right? It was really hard work. So we were so proud of you that we made you this beautiful certificate, and you have been working really hard to keep up the hard work that you've done, right?
Yeah.
So we're so proud of you, and that's why we gave you the certificate.
I am really grateful for Indwell. I came from a really dark place before moving into Indwell, and I've now been able to get my diploma. I've now been able to get a job. I'm starting my transition to male now. I'm looking at getting my bachelor's degree as a social worker or my recreational therapy degree. So I'm really grateful for the support and the kindness of the staff within this building. They want to see you succeed no matter what, so I'm very grateful.
Yeah, so I freestyle, but I change it all around. I can share it right now because I like to go with the flow, but it doesn't let me go. But it's like the swell that this in the well gives us. But I don't know it's gifted, like it gives us something that is so lifted. But I know what's coming up, but it's so encrypted.
There is power, power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. Right? Yes!
I think one of the tenants in that video said it so well. Now I know what humanity is. Thank you to Brandy and Jay, Russell, Brett, Kim, Bernard, Sam, and Rosemary for sharing with us in that beautiful presentation. As our night comes to an end, I suspect that, like me, you're saying, I want to do more. This is so important. There's so much need. As I mentioned, I'm a pastor, and this morning I got a message from a family from our church, a grandma, 2 kids that live with her, and 3 grandkids that had been evicted on Monday. They have applied to 80 houses in the last 6 months, and they said, we have about a week left in our motel that we can afford. Indwell really matters. That's just one family trying to get through this housing market. And so again, like me, if you're saying, how do I help more? Well, I've got good news, and that is that Jody's going to come and talk to us. So I'm inviting Jody Brolsom up. Jody and her husband Dave live in West Hamilton. They've been involved with Indwell in various ways for a long time. And recently, even more, as their daughter Lynn has been working as a housing support worker and doing an internship with Indwell here in Hamilton. So the family business. Jody is going to share more with us.
Good evening. It's really been an inspiring evening, and it's also just so great to see so many people who are all supporters together of Indwell. Each one of us plays a small role, but all together, whether we're financial backers, prayer supporters, staff, volunteers, and tenants, everyone has an important part to play in this whole big Indwell story. So Indwell did ask us to share a little bit about being supporters. So I'll just tell a very, very short background story. My first connection with Indwell came in about 1995 or so, and this is going to come back to Locke Street, Leanne, where we started, full circle. I was walking down Locke Street, and I bumped into someone who I knew from my hometown church, and it turned out he was living in some Indwell supporting housing in the area, in this great big old house. The organization was called Homestead at the time. We now know it as Indwell. As I learned more about it, I knew it was something we could get behind. Fast forward a few years to a time when we were more settled in our lives, we started thinking about planning for the future, as people tend to do, and maybe making some investments with our savings. Now, investments always involve risks, and something that bothered us was that you don't really have a lot of control over how your savings are being put to use when you're going through financial institutions and things like that. But around that time, we came across some fundraising information from Indwell. Not only were they looking for donations, they were also looking for loans from their supporters. By giving Indwell the discretion to use some of our savings, we'd see some interest, but more importantly, we would see those funds giving hope to members of our Hamilton community through affordable, supportive housing. The leaps and bounds by which Indwell has grown since my first encounter never ceases to amaze me. Their leadership is inspiring and visionary. The speed at which new projects move from vision to occupancy is astounding. They cannot do that without supporters who believe in their vision and give them the financial backing necessary to turn dreams into homes. Our financial support of Indwell continues to be a balance of loan and donations. Along with so many other supporters like you, our monthly donations provide Indwell with reliable funds needed for ongoing programs and tenant services that you have heard so much about this evening. Indwell has asked us to share some of the specifics about how you can become a supporter. Maybe you're already a supporter, and you feel called to increase your support. Indwell makes it very easy to make a donation. You may have noticed, this is why Dave came up with me, you may have noticed the QR codes and frames on each table that will link directly to the giving page on the secure website. So go ahead and try that if you want to have access. Maybe we can crash their site tonight, that would be amazing. And if you're not tech savvy, probably someone at your table is who can help you with that. There's also envelopes at your table. You might have to go digging under some other paperwork on the table, some brochures and stuff to find that. Inside are some separate giving forms along with envelopes, so you can fill those out. And you can give with cash, check, or credit card in that way. There'll be people, volunteers from Indwell coming around collecting things in a few moments, so you can do that. Or you can pass it to somebody on your way out as you're exiting. Just make sure they work for Indwell. If you'd like more information, you can contact Indwell. I believe the information's on the slide, but also on the papers in the envelopes on your table. Now, I don't know if there's a goal tonight for what they're trying to raise. I think in their road trip last year, the virtual road trip, I remember a thermometer, and I don't see one tonight. I did hear Jeff mention a couple of numbers, though. 30 million, 100 million? What were those numbers, Jeff? Anyways. So also, let's all be supporters as well by continuing to tell Indwell's story of hope. We all know people who are not here tonight who we can share that with. Let's encourage these tenacious tenants and thriving staff to keep them tenacious and thriving. If you're a praying person, continue to pray for the work of Indwell. It's really important. Thank you, everyone, for making this evening such an amazing success.
Thank you so much. So we'd like you to take a moment now to look in the center of your tables. This is what that envelope looks like for these handy giving cards and your QR code. So please take a few moments now to think about how you may feel led to support Indwell in this way tonight. As you do that, please go ahead. I was thinking about this important relationship between our staff and tenants and how all these people work together. And I was thinking of a story that I heard of something that happened some time ago, and it happened that all the staff and just one tenant were on this flight. So they're up on this flight, and something went wrong. And the pilot comes on and says, I don't really know how this happened, but we have too much weight on this plane. Again, as I share, please give. We have too much weight on this plane. So we need to get rid of some extra weight. So unfortunately, we're going to have to throw all the luggage out the window. And they say, that's okay. We're going to make it work. So they throw out all the luggage. Well, they go a little bit farther along, and the pilot comes on and says, I'm so sorry. It's still just too heavy. We're going to have to throw out all your carry-on luggage. And everyone says, okay. And so they take out their purses and their bags, and they throw it out. The pilot comes on. We're still too heavy. Actually, what we're going to have to do, I know it sounds extreme, is we're going to have to drop the whole bottom of the plane. You didn't know this was a thing, but this is an emergency measure. We're going to have to drop the bottom from this plane. So everyone's holding on, to the luggage containers at the top, and they're hanging there. All these staff people, just one tenant, and the bottom of the plane drops out, and they're holding on for dear life. And the pilot comes on and says, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is we're almost there. We just need one volunteer to let go, and then we'll be at the perfect weight. And you know who volunteered? The tenant. And all the staff people clapped. Take a minute. You're going to get it. We encourage you to continue to give as we wrap up our night together. I think the staff are going to come around to collect envelopes as we get ready to do that. Please give. Well, we wish to thank you for your generosity. And as we end tonight, just a couple of final things to wrap up. The plants in the middle of your table, we would like you to take home. We're going to invite the person at your table who lives closest to Lyuna Station to bring that plant home. So figure out who lives the closest, or if you just have someone who wants it, you can give it to them. Also in the middle of the table, there are pens, literature, and air fresheners. Please bring those home, and you can even share them with a friend to spread the good news of Indwell. We want to say that if you wish to speak to anyone who spoke or is wearing an Indwell name tag, please do ask them questions and introduce yourself. And finally, please follow us on social media. As we go, I'm going to close the evening in prayer. Before I do that, would you join me in thanking all those who organized this wonderful evening? join me in